I watched It Welcome to Derry. This is an HBO prequel series to the Andy Muschietti directed films. And I will say right off the bat, to say something positive about the show, it definitely feels in line with the movies. The production value is top notch. I mean, not that I was alive in the 60s, but I mean, it feels era accurate. This overall just feels like they put a lot of effort and love and care into making this feel like it is in line with the films. I also think that the performances in general are really great. There were no child actor performances that felt glaringly bad. Another interesting wrinkle about this show is that because it's a series and it has a lot more time to tell its story, it focuses on adults as well as children. And I found a lot of the adult characters to be pretty engaging, and the way that adults have to deal with Pennywise and the differences between them and the kids, I think, are an interesting wrinkle and an interesting addition to a Pennywise story. And Pennywise himself is still one of the more iconic horror characters for good reason. I think Stellan Skarsgård, whatever his name is, he is genuinely phenomenal, and he somehow finds new ways to play Pennywise, new wrinkles, new little acting twitches in creepy ways to make these sequences that are admittedly familiar not feel overly repetitive. The show also has balls. It is willing to do things with certain characters. It is willing to tackle, certain subjects. I was genuinely invested in the storyline. I was genuinely invested in the relationships between all the characters. I was genuinely invested in the situations that they were being put in. It takes place in the 60s. There are aspects of racism. The military is involved in this, and, seeing how the military is dealing with Pennywise is actually really interesting. The show also gives you a lot more lore and exposition about Pennywise, and a lot of it is interesting. Some of it I thought less so. And that will take me into some of my criticisms of the series, which is that a lot of the things that I liked in the first part of the season ended up not paying off in the last two episodes. I said that I really like the characters and I really like their storylines. I like their relationships with one another. The last two episodes basically just become Stephen King / It movie reference and interconnectivity slop. Whereas I feel like they did a really good job of setting up these characters and getting you to be invested in them. By the end of the series, the show was much more focused on making you go, ooh, this character is actually this character from the movies. Ooh, this character is this guy from this other Stephen King book. Ooh, did you know that this is gonna connect to something that happens in the movie? Ooh, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna sit here and say that that's not fun, right? I'm not gonna say that none of that made me smile, none of that made me soy face and point at the screen and go, ooh, I recognize what that is. But I think in doing all of that, it let the characters down. The characters started becoming kind of stupid. The characters started, arguing with each other for no reason. A lot of the interesting storylines and objectives that certain characters had no longer became as interesting or, as much of a focus. By the end of it all, there were just weird plot holes that I just don't understand. And apparently we're going to get 2 more seasons of this show. And my question is, how? They do set up a way that we can get more storyline out of this, and I'll get into it a bit more in the spoiler discussion, but I don't know, is what I'm going to say. But anyways, I also understand that I'm kind of in the minority here. I think people broadly really love the show and really love these last 2 episodes. So I'm not going to say that you shouldn't watch it, but I think that you should go into it with tempered expectations. I don't think that it's as good as people are making it out to be. And I think that if you really start thinking about the ramifications of everything going on in the finale, it's going to become worse the more you think about it. So if you're a fan of it, if you're a fan of Stephen King, and you just want some King slop, and you want references and whatnot, there is certainly enjoyment to be had here. But there's also a lot to be critical of as well. Oh, another criticism that was really glaring throughout the whole thing is that it was never scary at any point. And to be fair, the It movies also have this problem. Andy Muschietti in general has a really bad habit of just throwing in random CGI nonsense because he's not capable of just creating a scary scene out of genuine tone and atmosphere. Like sometimes a scene will begin a little creepy, and instead of building upon that, he's just like, here's a giant demon baby. It's all CGI and it's flapping around and it's flying up to the screen and screaming, and it's just not scary. Okay, so now I'll do a little bit of a spoiler discussion. I'm not going to do a super in-depth breakdown because I don't feel like it, but I will address some things that I couldn't address in the non-spoiler section. First of all, I think the fact that they just killed off those kids at the beginning of the season was pretty cool. Like, that absolutely adds stakes to this whole thing, right? Because after that, it really did feel like anybody could die, right? It felt like, plenty of the adults could die. It felt like any of the current kids could potentially die. And one of them did, right? Richie did indeed pass away. I'm not like a super massive It fan. Like, I don't remember the characters' names. So at no point watching the series did I make the connection that the military dad and his family are the ancestors of Mike from the movies. So I guess if you did make that connection, then you were probably like, oh, well, those characters aren't going to die. I also never made the connection that Richie was called Richie and there was also a Richie in the movies. I never made that connection either. So there were definitely stakes for me. Like, I was never going like, oh, well, those characters aren't going to die. And even if you did make that connection, well, Richie did die. All the stuff with Hanlon and his like mind control abilities, plucking that character out of The Shining. I thought all of that was really interesting. At first, I thought all the mythology with the Indians and whatnot was pretty cool. Exploring the origins of Pennywise, I thought was cool. But by the end of it all, it just felt like nonsense gobbledygook. And when you really start thinking about any of it, it kind of falls apart. So let's take the military, for example. The military apparently knows about the existence of Pennywise. Why isn't the town evacuated? Why would the military allow people to live in that town? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Pennywise killed every single military member that knows about the existence of the entity. I'm pretty sure there were still members of the military that survived, that experienced all of this, that would be able to inform, the higher-ups of the military and just make Derry like a no-go zone. Because by the end of the series, the entity is trapped within Derry, trapped within the forest or whatever, and they could very much just make it a ghost town and starve the creature. And then they also established this weird timey-wimey thing where, like, Pennywise, I guess, experiences time differently, and so he knew that he was going to die by the hands of the descendants of the kids, and it's just like, this has turned into this weird, like, Terminator situation where he's trying to change his fate by killing the kids in the past. But then I just have to ask, okay, well, why aren't you just killing the kids then? Like, I understand the whole thing of, oh, well, Pennywise feeds off of fear, so he needs to make people feel scared before he kills them. And it's just like, but we do see him just killing people. He just killed a bunch of the soldiers when they went down into the sewers. If he is trying to change his fate, why not just kill Marge? Why not just kill the black kid? I don't remember his name. Sorry. Like, why not just kill the people that he needs to kill in order to change his fate? The plot armor that they've established in this show is just kind of ridiculous. And then, so what exactly is this show going to be? Apparently, we're getting 2 more seasons. Are we now going to travel 27 years in the past? And are we going to see Pennywise going after the ancestors of the characters from this season? And then it's just going to be the same thing again where we know that he fails unless they completely retcon the movies. We know that the losers kill Pennywise at the end of It Chapter 2. I don't know how they're going to move forward with this show, move forward with this franchise in a way that just doesn't feel stale and played out. But either way, let me know what you thought about the show in the comments down below. Were you more positive on it than me? Maybe you were even more negative on it than me. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.